Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Lionel, class of 2009, back with another episode of TV versus everybody. And listen, if you ain't know, we 3-0. Okay, I mean, maybe you didn't know, we 3-0. Okay, so welcome to the recap show with Coach Heist Northern and my boy Kerry Mickens. You are in for a treat, man. We got a couple games to talk about in discussion this past weekend on yesterday. Some blowouts, right? And one real close one. And so we're going to get a chance to discuss it. But first and foremost, man, you already know how we do it. If you're not following us over on PV versus everybody, it's PV _versus everybody on Instagram and on Twitter, man. Go ahead and follow us on both platforms. Again, if you have not done so already, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. All right, go ahead and show some love. We passed that 1,000 mark, but now we on to 1,100. You know what I'm saying? 1,100. All right, that's the goal now. And so we're moving forward. We're moving on up. All right, you know what I'm saying, to the east side. Now listen, y'all know early and often right now, if you want to call into the show, the call-in number is up there, right? The call-in number is up there. So make sure, all right, you go ahead and get your call-in in. All right, you know, so we got the call-in lines up and ready and available for you. So you want to call in and share your thoughts about any of the games this weekend, you can do so. All right, get call-in numbers up there. You know what I'm saying? Call-in numbers up there. So make sure you get that in. All right, if you want to call in and talk on the show. Before we get into it, you already know what we got to do, man. We got to show some love to the sponsors, man. And first and foremost, we got to show some love to PV alumni. Jeff McKissick. He's a Texas licensed loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage Company, and he'll guide you seamlessly through the home buying process. See, many of us are unaware of our credit score, our true financial standing, but Jeff will help you develop a step-by-step plan to prove your financial standing, making your dream of owning a home achievable sooner than you think. See, he understands your situation may not be perfect, but it's okay. The sooner you two start the conversation is the sooner you can solve those issues. So don't let the fear of achieving new heights hold you back. Perfect for getting the home of your dreams and for hosting those PV watch parties. So get started now on taking the first steps towards your new home, the next big step in your life. Don't delay. Talk with Jeff today so you can be in your home tomorrow. And listen, after Jeff gets your loan tightened right, all right, you got to have the money. All right, you ain't got the money right, then we can't be having a conversation. But after the money's right, then you hit up your boy, right? And I already told you, right? I believe that just as God has a special place for you in heaven, right? He said, I've gone to prepare a place for you. Then just as surely he has a special place for you and your family to be while you reside on that earth. And so we just partner together to prepare a place for you. And so after Jeff gets your money right, you know what I'm saying? We going to find the home of your dreams, perfect for those watch parties, for watching PV going 3-0. And then before you step foot in there, right, and close and get the keys to that home, you know what I'm saying? When you're talking about making the biggest investment, right, and you want a thorough assessment of it, you owe it to yourself to contact Big. That's Blueprint Improvement Group. Big provides home inspections in the greater Houston area and is owned and operated by proud PV mechanical engineer Neil Harris. He has experienced inspectors who use advanced tools and techniques to assess every aspect of your property from the roof to the foundation. So visit thinkbig.com or text 713-259-0673 to book your home inspection. Support the team that supports the team. And that being said, man, hey, listen, I got my guys with me today. Coach, Mr. Carey, man, how you guys doing this evening? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm a little bit richer because I didn't have to give G some soap. We're not washing up this week.
Hey, kept your money. I heard Alcorn was taxing this weekend, Coach Northern. $50 for tickets and $55 for parking. All right.
Hey, that sounds like downtown Houston prices right there.
That's crazy. In Lawrence, Mississippi.
Hey, before we get started, look, Prairie View been pretty good to me and mine lately. So I've been running into, like you say, productive people. So I don't know if I mentioned on this show, but my daughter is in a concussion protocol. So we go to one doctor, then she goes to her second doctor who is on the sports medicine team. She would come to Prairie View games with football. So that was one connect. So she refers us to basically a concussion specialist who was a student at Prairie View, went off got his PT certification, and he is my daughter's, for lack of a better terms, concussion protocol rehab doctor. So I run into him on, I think it was Thursday last week. And so she's been twice to him and it's getting much better. And he's done some work with Prairie View Athletics as well. The other thing, I talked to one of my former players. Now, Lester Butler, who went to Glen Oaks High School, he was the starting cornerback on our championship team. I talked to him. His wife had a baby a few months early. This joker got 5 kids, all of them girls. So I got to give Lester a shout out. That joker, I got some love for Lester. All the guys on the team called him Boosie because he was from Baton Rouge. The other one, I talked to one of my former players. Now, Paul played baseball and football at Prairie View. He was there when I got there. Paul took to Adam because Adam is a baseball player more than he is a football player. Mm-hmm. And Paul, I talked to him. I just texted him out of the blue, like, hey, man, how are things going? And he tells me his son is sick. And I say, man, send me your son's name, and I'm going to send his name to my aunt that prays a lot. Now, when I say a lot, she prays so long your neck start hurting. So, you got your head bowed. Yeah. Paul's son got out of the hospital, and my aunt sends me a message, says, how is Gentry doing? So I hit her back like, who is Gentry? Man, I didn't even know that was Paul's son's name. I thought it was Paul Jr. So Paul and I had a great laugh about that. But his son is home, had been in the hospital. He's doing well. And last but not least, I have to give a shout out to 2 former Prairie View football players that I saw on different things on social media and Channel 9, Channel 13 News in Houston. First is Pat Robertson, who is the defensive coordinator at C.E. King after a long stint at North Shore. And then I got to give a shout out to Jarvis Kelly, who's the head coach. Oh, man. I can see it. Not Wall Trip. But he just got an award. I'm sorry for forgetting the school. But Jarvis got an award for being a head coach at one of the HISD schools. So I just got to give those guys a shout out. And they doing, like I say, productive things from Prairie View A&M University. I got to give a shout out to all my guys that, they didn't always play for me, but they Prairie View football players.
That's what's up, man. Shouts out to the former Panthers.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying, doing their thing. You know what I mean? So definitely gotta shout them out, man. And hey, listen, the former Panthers and current Panthers, you know what I mean, having a good time right now. So we're gonna get into all of that, you know what I'm saying, in the mix bag. And for you guys, first and foremost, right, as we get into it, who is your biggest winner and your biggest loser from this past weekend, from yesterday?
I got to get mine. I'm going to get both of mine the same game. Prairie View and Alcorn. And I saw somebody put in the chat, the defense won. No, Prairie View won. That's a team game right there, because at the end of the day, it's not going to say Prairie View defense 13. That's a team victory. I don't care how you cut it up. Sometimes defense going to bail them out, and sometimes it's going to be 45-48. So Prairie View won. Let's leave it at that. Sorry about if you take it personal, but that's the way I feel.
That's good. Mr. Mickens, for you, who you got? Why? Before you go, why do you get obviously Alcorn knows have a win on the season, right? You know what I'm saying? First, second conference loss. Is that the reason why you give them the biggest?
No, just because the way they lost at home, you think you got victory, sort of wrapped up. You're in field goal range, and to miss it by a smidge, that's a tough way to lose. I don't care how you cut it up. And like they say, they probably can say, man, our defense played well enough to win. Well, no, they didn't, because they didn't win the ball game.
That's good.
Yes. And that's what I would say. Biggest winner for me was Prairie View, because, Coach Northern don't venture into those waters much, but that Twitterverse, it was an amazing amount of people that just was like, hates Prairie View, and they just like, no way they win this game. This is their biggest test. They're not going to get out of the reservation alive, all this stuff. And then Alcorn, biggest loser, because they did have a chance for us not to escape the reservation. And like you said, that kicker can hit from that distance.
Yeah.
And that was the killing part, was the wind just blew. It just reminded me of some of them days when we had Grambling in our sights and we would still lose it. And I think I said this before. Nobody talks about Ben Stewart, but next to that KD Sable guy we had, Ben Stewart's been the most solid long snapper I've seen at Prairie View. And people don't recognize that position, but I do, because of how many games we lost because of our long snapper. So I'm just saying that just little stuff like that, it costs you the game. So that kicker that he missed, hopefully he, still feel okay. They don't be down on him much, because he normally hits that. It's just the way it fell. And we got out with the victory. Everybody said, a lot of people said we don't deserve it and all that. Don't care. We won.
Don't care. Okay. Y'all don't get, listen, I'm trying to separate, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to separate things, because I noticed the recap. I try to keep Coach Norton out of it, but don't get me started, okay? Because I got something for him, but I don't get me started. Now, Coach Michael Jones says Jarvis Kelly is head coach at Westbury High School.
Yeah, I knew it was one of those W's. I just couldn't. I wasn't sure if it was Wall Trip, Westbury, because I want to say that's where Clyde Edwards went to school. That's how I think that I always remember that. But yeah, congratulations to him, because some of them places not the easiest place to win, but to keep guys together and keep on pushing, man, you got to be proud of them guys.
No, yes, definitely. So, man, let's get into it. I know we got a lot on. We want to definitely check out and talk about the game, the Prairie View and the Prairie View and Alcorn game, obviously, right? But let's get into it and just look at just briefly a couple of the others before we get into that game. All blowouts this week, right? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't close at all, right? Starting with Texas Southern and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff, right? Coming off a win against Alcorn the week before. And so many people, you know, when you just looked at the media streets, right, regarding UAPB after a win last week against Alcorn, you know, you really started to bubble up and believe that UAPB was essentially, you know, a team that was fighting to win the West. Now, again, everybody got a shot, right? Because you got to play every game. But the narrative around UAPB changed after beating Alcorn by 3 last week.
Oh,
right?
man.
I never seen the narrative change around one school so quickly. You know what I mean? And I was saying all last week on different places, right? I felt like the TSU disrespect was kind of high, and this is coming from a PV guy, right? Because I'm like, I really, outside of the Lamar game, I don't really think you can look at Texas Southern and say they just played horrible, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, their defense has played very well throughout this whole season, and I think you see now with them having a chance to completely shut down, you know, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Again, they were up 27-0 at halftime, up 44-0 at the end of the fourth quarter, and in the game, of course, 51-7. When we look at the team stats here, a total of first downs of 27 for TSU, 15 for UAPB, 8 of 13 on third down, 557 yards for total offense. I mean, Texas Southern was really glad to see this, and they're hoping probably that just like Bethune-Cookman saw some offense against South Carolina State, and then it kept rolling, that they can keep it rolling here. Only 269 yards total offense for UAPB, 116 in passing, 153 on the ground. They also had 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles lost, and an interception thrown. TSU had 1 interception thrown. They did have 10 penalties for 90 yards, but controlled the time possession at 33 minutes to 26 minutes. So, again, Texas Southern came in, just got the job done all over, right? KJ Cooper was 16 of 23, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is first game that I think KJ Cooper really showed that he can get the job done through the air. The other games he's played has been really kind of lackluster. Renfro, 22 carries, 133 yards, right? Jordan Davis, 6 for 65 and touchdown. And this is the guy who played quarterback last year that was a freshman. So he did have some time. He did 2 passes, of course, had 6 carries. Then you got Jacob Washington, 6 for 51 and touchdown. KJ Cooper, 448 in the touchdown, right? And so altogether, 350 yards on the ground, 207 in the air. Any thoughts briefly on this game?
You better than me because I wouldn't even brought that up.
All right, well, let's keep it going then. So next game we got, right, Jackson.
Wait, before you move, Lionel, nobody gives us any credit. But these jokers rolled up 557 yards of offense. But when we beat Texas Southern, we didn't beat anybody. So that's all I got to say on that game.
I agree with that, right? And again, like I said before, I just think the Texas Southern disrespect is just been great, right? You know what I'm saying? Mature Mickens in the building. He crying because now he's like, listen, if we could have just got that 6 seconds in that State Fair Classic, right? You know what I mean? We would be 2-0 in conference right now. You know what I'm saying? It's sitting pretty. And again, I've been saying it all before the Labor Day Classic, right? I think those are two best teams in the West, right, coming into the season. And I believe those 2 teams are going to finish first and second in the West, right? And I think as the season continues on, we'll see that, right? Doesn't mean that TSU can't drop a game or something like that, but I still think overall, I think they're the second best team in the West. I think defensively, we're seeing on the defensive side, both Prairie View and Texas Southern have 2 of the most solid defenses in this conference, right? And so if you can play defense and run the ball, which Texas Southern did do this past game, you're going to be in games and have a chance to win games. So I think, you know, again, I just think people were really down on them, obviously just because they hadn't got a win yet. The Valley game was tough, but I think Valley is a lot better than people are giving credit to this year as well, right? So that's another thing too. But let's keep it going though. Obviously, this one, nothing much to see here. 57-24. It was 33-10 at halftime, right? 43-24 at the end of the third quarter, and then Jackson puts another 14 points on in the fourth quarter. I think Jacobian Morgan threw for 4 touchdowns, over 300 yards. I think they had also like 250 yards rushing as well this game. I want to say. Actually, wow, I'm way off. 390 yards rushing, 314 yards passing. So over 700 total yards of offense. That's crazy, right? And that's including 10 penalties for 93 yards, right? Then Alabama A&M, the one thing is that stood out, right? 59 yards on the ground, 347 through the air, right? So move the ball through the air, but on the ground, man, they couldn't do anything, get anything going. And so, Coach Northern, when you looking at just the stats, right? Because one thing I've noticed in these conference games is just a lot of penalties. It seems like, right, in these in-conference games. Is this a SWAC referee thing? Is this just when it's tight and it's against conference foes, right? There's a lot more nitpicking or guys. I mean, what is it, right? Because it seems like in a lot of these conference games, we see a lot more penalties than even in the out-of-conference games that we play.
Well, I think some of it is the pre-snap penalties that are very obvious that they have to call. You could call holding on almost every play, pass interference a lot. And this is what referees used to tell me and what I still hear. If it's no advantage game by the chicken fighting that's going on between the players, then they're not going to call it. But the horse collars that are very obvious, the holding calls where you pulling the guy and you twisting, and then sometimes, this is what I was told, they're not going to call holding penalties unless your guy's hell-bent on trying to make a play. Some guys are satisfied with being hell-bent. So that's it in a nutshell. But the biggest thing is the pre-snap penalties. Those are the ones you want to keep down. And you just going to have some that is going to be very obvious, holding calls that you see. But if they holding and the guy's nowhere near the quarterback, they're not going to call that one a lot of time. And then you got to think sometimes, too, coaches teach guys a trick to the trade, win the hold based off where the referee is. The guys on the left side, they can get away with holding to the outside, but once that guy beat them back to the inside, the referee is usually standing to the right, and he can see that a lot better. So it's different things that go into those penalties, though.
Yeah, I gotcha. So looking at this Alabama State Bethune-Cookman game quickly, this was one again, just like the UAPB in the week prior, right? They popped on everybody's radar. Seemed like Alabama A&M was the other team that popped on everybody's radar. And I think Alabama A&M has shown that they have been a team that has definitely gotten better, overall, right? But I heard a couple people that was picking Alabama A&M to win this game. Didn't think that was going to happen, and obviously it did, right? You know what I'm saying? And then also Alabama State versus Bethune-Cookman. We saw the same thing with Bethune-Cookman. Again, getting the win against Alabama A&M last week. Now coming into this Alabama State game, there was a lot of talk of them possibly being able to get the job done. Again, they were down 31-14 at halftime. Another 14 points for Alabama State in the third, and then in the game with 7, and then Bethune with 14 in that final quarter to put it at a 17-point deficit, right? One thing that you did see in this game, Coach, and obviously leading to the big game next week, right? I call it the right to pay. The right to play PV Classic is what I'm calling it, right? You know what I'm saying? Alabama State versus Jackson State next week, all right? You know what I'm saying? We don't got to get too much into it because I don't want to bring you into my nonsense, Coach. Okay, but next week, right? When you look at this game, Alabama State defensively, I feel they've been a little up and down this year, right? And so even though they get the victory this game, Timmy McClain 25 of 34 for 266 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Cam Ransom, 2 of 6, 96 yards, and a touchdown, right? So 362 total yards of offense in the air, and also gave up over 200 yards on the ground as well. Ali Scott with 15 carries for 100 yards. Armani Robinson, 8 for 46. And then McClain had 29 yards. When we talk about Alabama State, 389 yards rushing. Last week they had 399, by the way. 399 last week, 389 this week, and 171 yards passing. And 2 touchdowns for Andrew Body. Listen, only 16 pass attempts. 16 pass attempts and 39 rushing attempts. Them boys, and last week I think he had 18 attempts, right? Them boys are saying we're going to run that ball, right? We're going to run that rock, right? But, Coach, when I look at Alabama State, they haven't seemed as if they're a team that has not been shaky defensively, right, and giving up a lot of yardage. I know we're not necessarily previewing that game yet, right? But I guess maybe we are here. when you look at them defensively, you talk about Jackson State and what we were able to see them do offensively over the last few weeks. How confident are you that Alabama State defense can keep that Jackson State offense at bay? You're right, because I think it's really a game between two teams that really do very similar things. You know, when you talk about on what they do on the offensive side, what they look to do for on the defensive side. What's your thoughts on that?
Hey man, that's gonna be a game where you better have your shoulder shockers and your mouthpiece in, because you better be ready to tackle. And both teams do a good job of spreading you from sideline to sideline. They have a certain amount of running plays. There's easy reads for the quarterback. If you try to cheat the box, they're gonna throw the ball to the 2 receiver side or to the 3 receivers that's stacked, and you're gonna pay because their receivers do a good job of blocking. So. And to be honest with you, I have not seen Bethune. I think it's the only team in conference that I haven't seen play. So I really can't speak to their offense or how Alabama State, had success against them. But I know Jackson is going to have probably better personnel, and they're gonna scheme them up pretty good. So it's going to be two teams that are just like each other, not passing the ball much, but they're going to take some automatics if you try to take the running game away, which both teams going to do. And then you better be able to play some man-to-man. That, to me, that's the only way that you can have success against those schools is you got to play some man. But if you're playing man, now you got to think about how you're going to handle both of those quarterbacks in the scramble game.
No, that makes sense. It looks as if Alabama State Bethune-Cookman really just couldn't stop Alabama State at all. They only had 6 third down plays this game, right? 2 of 6. And Bethune-Cookman actually 5 of 10 on third down, 1 or 2 on fourth down. That's 50%. But they also had the 2 turnovers, right?
The 2 turnovers is the difference in the game.
They also won the time of possession, but it must be that Alabama State really had some big runs, is what it looks like. Right?
They had some big plays. I saw some.
Look at the average that they running backs average. It was almost 9 or 10 yards a carry, so it's hard to lose when you averaging that much running the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the long 48, a 35, a 35, a 41, right? 16. I mean, that some of these may be scored, right? So those are some big runs. So it literally looks like Bethune-Cookman on the ground. I mean, just really couldn't control them on the ground. But Mr. Carey, what are your thoughts right now? Obviously, look at Alabama State, you look at Jackson State. Kind of previewing and looking at that game, right? I call it the right to play PV Classic, right? That's basically what it is, right? Whoever wins that game is going to play PV, for the SWAC championship. So, what's your thoughts right now leading into that game, as well?
Well, leading to that game, the way everything's set, I would give the edge to Jackson State only because Alabama State's defense is good, but it's not like they've been in the past. I noticed that they did give up quite a few yards to Bethune in the air. And if you've been following Jacoby and Morgan with Jackson State this last game, and it might be attributed to A&M's defense as well, but he averaged 10 yards a carry. So he ran for 120 yards, and on top of that, threw for 314. So and it looks like Alabama State will give up the pass. So if they do slow down the Jackson State rushing, which is what everybody thinks they count on, it looks like he does have the ability to go to the air, and he does have a lot of weapons. I know the Prairie View transfer, Savage, had 2 touchdowns, but you still got to watch out for that Dathan Rembrandt, and those guys are really, really prolific in the passing game if he has to get it to him. I think they only open up the passing game if they just have to, but I think TC Taylor prefers to control the game, run, don't give you much time to have the ball, and Coach Northern will tell you this: when somebody can just rush on you and still get first downs by that middle third quarter and the late fourth quarter, you don't have no fight anymore. Just
correct.
That's really tough. So you do give them the edge, but when you look at matchups, it's hard to see how they're going to match up because nobody expected us to have to grind with Alcorn, but matchup wise, it caused us to have a grind. So I'm glad we're on a bye because I want to see that game. I wish I could just drive up there and check it out. but I want to see this game this weekend.
Yeah, I hate that I moved to ESPNU because, I always say ESPNU is where games go to die. You know what I mean? Because they make it so hard to get that platform and things of that nature. So, I hate that it's actually there. To me, if it's gonna move it to ESPN. Two, even ESPN Plus would be better. You know what I mean? Because it's more accessible in my opinion. But with that said, man, before we get to this review of the Prairie View versus Alcorn State game, right? Coach, we talked, had a couple people reach out and wanted to talk about recruiting, right? How does that work? How does that operate? When with the different people, the different coaches, etc., different moving parts, right? In season, out of season. So we want to take a chance now to go under the headset, right? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna go under the headset, right? This week, but this week under the headset, we're talking about recruiting 101. So, Coach, take it away.
All right. So I just get started with I go with spring recruiting on to getting the kid on campus for an unofficial visit at most places. So now you'll see a lot of schools have departments, maybe an on-campus recruiting department. They may have a general manager who is tied more to the recruiting side or the NIL side. Then you have on-campus recruiting only. Once people get to your campus, then you have the coaches or the recruiting coordinators for each school. So that's pretty much the way it starts. So when you first start looking at kids, most places a coach has an area. So just say when I started at Grambling, my recruiting area was Baton Rouge, and then I had from Grambling all the way to Dallas, the whole I-20. And then I would just go, they used to give us books back then, but now you can just go to a school's website and type, and they'll give you a list of all the seniors, or the coaches will send that out. And you go to these schools in the springtime, you get your transcripts, you get your all your info, talk to the head coaches, all that type of stuff. Then you have to think about when you get to your area, you have to find the guys that can play college football regardless of class, because most schools recruit 2 years ahead. They don't just look at the seniors, they look at the juniors that may be upcoming as well. So that's one thing. Then when you get back from your spring recruiting, you usually rank the kids, or you list, okay, here are all the running backs in my area. Here are all the quarterbacks in my area. Here you go position by position that's just in your area, and every coach that has an area does it. Now, some schools don't have it in a budget for spring recruiting, or they may just locally recruit, but to each his own. So once you get your area, then you may take all your running backs and go show them to the running backs coach, or all your defensive linemen, show them to your D-line coach. And you swapping all this information, and then you come up with a ranking for each guy. Like, these guys probably, if they came here, they would play as freshmen. These guys may need a red shirt. They might be real skinny, got injured or something like that, and you rank all of them. Then you come back and you may say all your defensive staff will sit together and watch all the defensive linemen one day. Then they'll sit together and watch all the linebackers. Then they come up with all the rankings for all the defensive players, regardless of where they come from. And the offensive guys are doing the same. And that's how you come up with the quote-unquote big board. Now, usually you have a GA or somebody that'll type all that up in an Excel spreadsheet based off rankings, based off hometown, state, GPAs, all that type of stuff. Then the next thing, during the summer, you're still doing that because you get an updated transcript with 6 semesters of grades on it to see, can this kid actually get in school at XYZ? And also during the summer, you may spend more time getting a little bit more particular. Like, coach, I need a little bit more film on this guy. We like him, but we need to see more of what is he doing, all that type of stuff. And then once the season starts, so I'll just say when I was at Prairie View and another place I was, on Monday mornings, when the head coach is doing his conference call, the position coaches and coordinators, they may be they get the updated film on guys, and they're updating the board. Like, this guy, we went to see him play, or I heard he got hurt or whatever, and you move guys up and down on that Monday morning a lot of times. And then you move forward in the week on Thursday. Thursday is the night where most high school guys not playing. They get home a little bit earlier, or they got their cell phone with them a little bit earlier. And the college coaches usually finish practice early. So that's your Thursday night. You calling kids, sort of passing the phone around. So just say if I got a kid, I got a wide receiver in Marshall, Texas, then I'm going to pass the phone to my wide receiver coach and let him talk to the kid. Hey, good luck, man. That was a good game you had. All that little, pillow talk or whatever you want to call it, for lack of a better term, just get nice talk. So that's one of the things. So here's some other things that I'm going to say I looked at, and I know other coaches will look at when they go see kids. Number one, do they play another sport? I love basketball players and I love wrestlers. Track was okay depending on what position you did, if you were a thrower or a runner, but it just depends on what were your times, or were you just out there competing or trying to get fast. So these some other things I looked at. How big is your dad, if you know him, or how big is your older brother? If you have an older brother that played college football or basketball, how tall is he now? Another thing, and this sounds crazy, does the kid have bumps on his face? Does he have a mustache? Because if he doesn't, that's a good possibility. He may grow a little bit more. Jerry Lovelock grew about 3 inches from the time he came to Prairie View to the time he finished, different things like that. And I look at Adam. Adam don't even have a mustache, so he's probably going to grow a little bit more. So those are different things that we look at as coaches that the average person wouldn't even think about looking at. Where do I project that kid to play? He may be playing strong safety in high school, but can he play linebacker? Is he tall and skinny? Can he play defensive end? I'll let you look at ankle to calf. Ankle to calf ratio. Do he have big, thick legs, or does he have athletic legs? Hip to waist ratio. How does his shoulders look? If a joker got slumpy shoulders, man, I pretty much don't want to have too much to do with a joker that walk slumped down or don't have. And my high school coach and some of my they'll walk up to you and grab you right there to see if you got some, if you went down to the ground, they be like, nah, that kid hadn't been in the weight room. Look at hands. Look at Joker's shoe size. You might talk to the girlfriend if you see her on campus. Find out where he might want to go. All those different things like that. And the last thing we might ask about, can a Joker handle tough coaching? And I put it to you like this. I used to curse a lot, but I sort of I had fun at cussing. The guys would laugh when I curse. I would never call about somebody, a B or MF or something like that. I never did that, but I might use it in my talking to get a point across or to make them laugh, because if I can make a joker laugh, he's not going to take it personal what I'm telling him. So just different. Can a joker just be talk too loudly and not take it personally? The other thing, if I went to see a kid in person, you can't miss on those guys. I can remember the story. Some of y'all might remember Fred Anderson from Cy Woods High School. The year Fred was coming out, that was Coach Frazier's last year. So Cy Woods made a good run in the playoffs. So I got a chance to see him play 2 or 3 times. And man, no matter what the situation was, Fred was like, Coach, find a way to give me the ball. I'll get the first down. Man, it would be like 3rd and 12. That joker get 12 and a half yards on the draw. 3rd and 15, they'll throw him a screen. He gets 16 yards. And that made a big difference in me looking at him, because he wasn't the biggest kid. He wasn't a fast kid, but I saw him play in person and I saw the interaction. This is the other thing that I do. I used to sit in the stands, but I got to a point where I didn't want to sit around people. And I went to a game in North Louisiana, and all the black folks were sitting like from the 30 on out, and all the white people were sitting in the middle. So I was like, man, I can't do this in 1990, whatever it was. So I started going down on the field, and I always, if I'm coaching at Prairie View, I always wore the biggest PVU, PVAMU on my jacket, even if it was hot. And I go stand right on the sideline by the guys with the box. The guys with the boxes, the referees that hold the chains, they see more football than probably anybody else. And they could tell you, hey, man, have you seen this kid over here? Oh, man, you might not want to talk to this kid. And then I did that, number one, so the fans can say somebody from Prairie View came to watch us play. And then so the head coach can't say, I hadn't seen anybody from Prairie View at our game. So there's that's pretty much the recruiting. Then once we do all that, we get them on campus for an unofficial visit. That's where they pay their way. They pay their way, and you give them a couple tickets, and their parents can get in. Some people have food for them, some don't. It just depends on the school and the setup. And that's usually the kids that you see down on the sideline before the game with their Letterman jackets on or their school football shirts. That's more than likely they're on an unofficial visit, and we try to get those guys, especially for the bigger games. And that's why I say the fan interaction is so important. But that's recruiting in a nutshell. If you need a little bit more particular, then I'll gladly ask you. But that's pretty much how you go from spring recruiting to getting a kid on campus to watch you play in a couple months.
So, Coach, we thank you so much for recruiting 101 again under the headset. If you have something specific that you want Coach to go under the headset about, again, put it in the comments, right? You can leave a comment on the video. You can email us at pvversuseverybody@gmail.com.
Hey.
But again, that was under the headset.
Can I add something too?
Yeah, go ahead.
For all those alums out there, the mamas, the daddies, the uncles, please start calling your HBCU coaches about the 4 and 5 star kids, not the 1 and 2 stars that nobody else really looking at. They might get a little bit of action, but call about the big dogs, man. I'm saying we, because I'm still a coach at heart. We appreciate that. And then when you call, be honest. Be honest about how tall or how big a kid is. I never forget. And man, I got burned, I say twice, doing a favor for somebody. I know one year I let a kid walk on at Prairie View because of who his family was. And man, that joker stayed out there about 7 days. And back then, you couldn't replace kids that quit. So now I done burned the spot, and I can't replace them. So
wow. That's crazy.
Oh, man.
You learned that lesson quick.
Oh,
yeah, that's a good one.
That's crazy.
And the bad thing about it, if he would have stayed out there, he was a real fast kid, he would have helped us. Bad thing about it.
Right. He was like, man, he couldn't take it. He wasn't about that life. But the fact that he left after 7 days showed that he wouldn't have helped you at all, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's the way I should look at it now.
He would have jumped out the way when it was time to tackle somebody.
But that's like I say, that's like a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't see when you in the recruiting game. And I told this story before. I called a lady that was an HBCU alum that had a kid that was highly ranked. I called him his junior year on purpose, knowing I wasn't supposed to call him, just so she couldn't say that a HBCU didn't reach out to her son.
Wow.
So,
and she was an HBCU alum herself, so that make it worse to me.
Man, Mr. Carey, anything stood out from what Coach was talking about with the recruiting 101?
Yeah, I noticed he didn't tell us how to get cousin Junebug that's 5'6" and 140 pounds on the Prairie View football team.
Hey, a big donation. Make the check out to Coach Jackson. He'll take him. I guarantee you the check big enough. Look, this is another thing. And my wife probably gonna slap me upside the head for talking too loud. Look, I had a buddy of mine that coached at Louisiana Tech, the special teams coach, and he kept saying, the head coach kept telling, like, make sure Junebug is on, get to play. Man, Junebug sorry as hell. So he kept saying, Coach, why are you telling me to put this kid in the game? He said, well, they made a big donation to the library on campus. He said, all right, well, Junebug gonna be on special teams then.
There you go.
He say, listen, we got to hire him. Hey, listen, you better kick this one out of bounds, okay?
Now, hey, you put him on punt return. You can hide him on punt return because you can't hide him on kickoff.
Oh man, that's so funny. Yeah, and I love the statement you made right about standing by and having conversation with the chain guys, right? Something you probably would never think about, but you're right? Not only do officials, right, are paying attention to the game, right, but those specific officials, right, really get a front row seat for every game, and they actually get to watch full plays develop and things like that. Whereas even other officials on the field maybe be watching specific areas, right, things of that nature. So that's actually really good, and actually showing that a way that you can say, hey, you can't say Prairie View wasn't here because you wore a big sweater, right? You got somebody else who's vouching for you as well. So that's actually really an interesting tip, right? Of the type of people. Sometimes you only think about coaches, right? But you don't think about the
Yeah.
people all around the game who also have knowledge of the game, right? And who've seen a lot of guys, right? Even think about other referees that may be even in the press box, right? That's running the scores and stuff like that, right? They see a lot. They see the full field. They see the full 22-hour game, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's really good, really interesting to hear you talk about that, man. So again, that was Under the Headset, Coach Heights Northern. You got something you want to hear under the headset? Again, leave it in the comments, and we'll definitely get to it as the time permits. Again, I want to remind you guys, we got the call-in number at the top right there. So if you guys want to call into the show, you can go ahead and do that, and we can get your thoughts in. But now, at this point, we're going to get straight into the PV versus Alcorn matchup. All right, the game was 3-3 at the end of the first quarter, 10-6 at halftime. Then it was 12-10 at the end of the third quarter, and then 13-12 is the final score. Again, Alcorn, of course, did miss the field goal within the last minute after a big sack, and I saw that Mr. Bowers in the comments did make a statement about that. That sack was huge, right? You know what I'm saying, and getting them moved back a few more yards, right? Kennedy Parker came off the edge and literally blew by the tackle, right? In order to get that in place. We look at the stats from the game. Cam Peters 15-22, 117 yards. Tevin Carter 8-11 for 68 yards. So total team 23-33, 185 yards passing. Jalen Tolbert 11 for 22, 176 yards, 1 interception. He also had 163 yards rushing for Prairie View, 66 for Cam Peters, 51 for, this is Lamar J. McDowell saying wish him, but Lamar J. McDowell. Cedric Bird 4 for 28. Carter had 9 yards. Then you had 2 receivers with 6 and 3. And then 94 total yards for Alcorn, right? Jacorian Sewell only 9 for 29. And then Reggie Davis 11 for 41 with a touchdown. Really the big play, man, when you think about it, under 100 yards for Alcorn is great, right? When you talk about this team, obviously really running is their mainstay. And then when you talk about passing, right, really receiving, this 71-yarder was really off of that flea flicker, right? Think about that flea flicker, and then you think about basically the last big play of the game, which was that 3rd and 13 on their side of the field when they lost. They had the bad snap that he didn't control, and they found a way to get it downfield. Those are really the 2 biggest bad to pass the game, right? You know what I mean? So obviously you can't erase any of those things, right? But when you look at overall how the defense played, right? How they played they were dominant all game long, right? And really it was those big plays that even gave Alcorn anything in the passing game, right? You know what I'm saying? Really outside of those 2 plays, you're really looking at Jalen Tolbert being 9 of 20, right? You know what I'm saying? For probably under 100 yards, right? So they did a great job all game long. I don't think we have we don't have the defensive stats here, but total was 10 tackles for loss on this game, 5 sacks for Prairie View on this game, and another interception for Eric Zachary. So that's 2 on the year for him, 2 for Trevor Randall as well. And so we won the turnover battle, only 1 turnover. I know we also won the time possession battle, 37 minutes to 22. Again, 9 penalties for 99 yards, so that hurts. 8 for 70 for Alcorn, right? And and then also 5 of 13 on 3rd down as well. So, Coach, what was your thoughts on the game, man? And also when you look at if I want to ask you, right? And I know you're a defensive guy, but which way do you prefer to win? Do you prefer a 13-12 victory, or do you prefer like the 52-35 win or the 52-49 win, right? What is your preference on how you would prefer to win games? Because I know that from a fan perspective, I think fans
we like,
52-49, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they rather the 52-49 game than a 13-12 game. But what's your thoughts on that?
Look, long as I win, I don't care. So, but I'll tell you this much: I got great enjoyment out the game because if I'm not watching the game and I hear the game, man, I tell you this: don't nothing sound better than shoulder pads and helmets clacking and your boat motor starting early in the morning. Hey, other than that, it ain't too many sounds that I love to hear. But if I'm watching football and I can hear football, man, you can't beat that. that was a very entertaining game.
Yeah.
I don't care how you cut it up. Now the fans gonna whine and moan about the quarterback play, the offense. This man, the team won, and you can fix the issues a lot better when you win than when you lose. So take the win, however you get it. But I've been in a lot of games on the defensive side, and I would love to win a game where they don't score that many points, or even if the defense scored the winning touchdown. Shoot, that made me feel better as a coach. I love that score right there.
Mr. Mitchell, man, what was the first thing that stood out to you from the game as you saw it?
Well, as I saw it, it seemed like to me Alcorn tackled better than I've seen him tackle in other games because they, I just didn't see a lot of missed tackles on any side. And like Coach Northern said, I'll take that. It was, I guess the average fan would be like, oh, that was a sorry game. They both played. I just think both the defenses came to play. And it was really – and there were some key calls that called back some big plays. But if you take that away, both the defenses were really bringing really bringing those pads. And it was just not – a game where you just was going to run away with it. It's like Alcorn might be 0-5, but they're not going to lose the rest of their games. But it's just bad for them because they lost the PV. Because every game we won, PV said people, I won't call the people out in blue and white, but they always were saying they don't deserve to win. Prairie View don't win that game, and they won it because the other team was sorry. Now, every game we win, the West is weak, so nobody's going to touch Jackson State or nobody's going to touch Alabama State. So, we, and then I think, Bowers said that, we did miss one of our touchdowns, so Rockwell should have gotten credit. Man, that catch! I wish we could have clipped that.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah. So that was just like Coach Northern said, an entertaining game. Not the most fun game for fans that want to see a lot of points, but it was, and playing down in Lorman is just going to be hard and gritty anyway. And the other thing I did notice about the game is. That's one of the few times I've seen a team take the Alcorn crowd out of the game because they what
Alcorn crowd?
Well, wherever they were. But I'm telling you, it could be 5 of them there, and they want that band going on every first down, all that. But they get 2 first downs, so they did. They didn't get a chance to play that much, and they didn't get many touchdowns because if they get going with that, even with 5 fans, it can get pretty raunchous, back there.
Yeah, I think this game really reminded me of the Texas Southern game a lot, in that we really moved the ball pretty well, right? Up and down the field, and it was penalties that really hurt us. And kind of put us in a position where we couldn't finish drives and we couldn't close. So from that standpoint, it kind of hurt in that really, the game, Alcorn offensively really never ever got rolling, right? Like I say, you had the big 71. The first drive was a face mask penalty for 15 yards, and then the defensive pass interference. That to me was, I don't know what they saw the defense pass interference, because I was really confused, to be honest. Right? I guess because he literally just had his hand up and looking back, they called it, because I didn't see anything, and the ball went out of bounds. It's in the back of the end zone, so it wasn't even catchable. So I have no idea, right? But that was the first 3 points, right? Then the touchdown was again on the 71-yard flea flicker. So really, you talk about really probably just one drive the whole game where Alcorn actually drove the field and got in field goal range and hit a field goal. Outside of that, Alcorn really did literally nothing offensively, right? So from a defensive standpoint, I think we played completely shut down, lights out, just dominated, the whole game. In offense, we move the ball well. Again, the same thing that we've said so far the last few weeks is we just haven't finished drives, right? Whether that is us putting the ball on the ground and not making a catch that we should just be able to secure, whether that is us, not making the right read and just missing the guy that's wide open, or whether that's getting a penalty, right? You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, like Coach says, we're not even in play, right, like that, right? So it's like, why are we even holding in the first place? Like, you ain't even got a hold there, right? The play ain't even going to your side. So it's really us offensively shooting ourselves in the foot a lot when we can really put some of these games away. Now, obviously, one of the questions that is coming up, Mr. Malone says, what do you think about Peters as the quarterback? Stop making him a running quarterback because he's 10 times better at throwing the ball than other QB, but he's not a runner at all. So that's his thought process. From what I've seen, offense coordinator since is like, hey, the offense is the offense, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether you're a Cam or whether you're a Carter, you're going to run the offense that's given to you, right? Carter needs to make the same throws that I expect Cam to make, and Cam needs to run the same, QB dives that I expect Carter to run, right? So I'm not changing the offense, right? The guy's going to have to come in with the skill sets that they have and get the job done. But what's your thoughts to this, Coach? Coach Malone, Brother Malone is asking this question here, and I think somebody else also asked a question about the quarterback play as well.
Man, the coaches are around those guys way more than we are, and I'm around football a good little bit, but it's just, it's funny to me to hear people complain about who should be playing. They don't know who got in trouble, who missed the weight room, who didn't go to study hall, who didn't go to class, who had a bad practice, who cussed the cafeteria later. All them little things that might go into who played. They don't know who hurt or not. So
that's one. Yeah.
All that stuff like that, from a coach's standpoint, it just passed by me. So I'm not going to ever complain about who's playing or who should be playing unless I go to practice every day, and I don't.
Yeah, because that's the thing. As a fan in the stands, and, I hadn't played football in a really long time, but it's some stuff that happens to you on that field that a fan might not see. You could be running, miss the pass, and you fell down and look like nothing, but the defensive back stepped on your hand with his cleats, and now your fingers they don't swell up. You on the sideline, you can't really catch anymore, and then you don't come back in the game, and people don't know why. So you don't know if he might have got yanked a little bit, or, tweaked something, or the coaches wanted a different twist. So you don't know. I guess if people really want to know that, they'll have to get on the coach's call tomorrow and ask at that time, because we can't really call it. Like Coach Northern said, they're around them all the time, so they know if that guy is dinged up, he ain't quite running right. He looked fine to us, but something could be going on with him, and it's just you get a better shot with the other guy.
Chris says we need to play JoJo Stewart Jr. at quarterback, the freshman. It's hilarious. Jimmy says he was a dual threat at his first stop. Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, right, the coaches are also looking at kind of the flow of the game, looking at how momentum goes. And I think, they're looking at, maybe, again, one thing in that game, I think Carter missed up over top, right? One guy that was open, right? And I think the first two series, and then they brought Cam in, right? So Cam came in the first half. He didn't come in the second half. But, you're just looking at – he already said he's going to play two quarterbacks. So at this point, they're going to play two quarterbacks, all right? You know what I'm saying? It's going to be whoever they feel is giving us the best chance to win, whether it's against Southern. We look at something we can exploit, right? We can look – again, Carter is very dynamic with his legs, right? I think Cam has a little bit more touch on his passes, right, on the ball, right, at times. And so he's just going to look and see, right? But both quarterbacks miss, both quarterbacks definitely miss. But I also think, to me, it ain't even the quarterbacks I'm most disappointed in anyway, right? If the wide receivers make catches, both of these quarterbacks look better and have better stats and numbers, right? So the wide receiver room has not done their job. That's just the reality, right? You know what I'm saying? As far as that's concerned, and putting balls on the ground. And then listen, this game, it ain't on quarterbacks either to me either, right? I think 8 of 11 for Carter, right? 15-22 for Cam. I mean, those numbers are solid. But then when you got holding penalty after holding penalty, because you know what I'm saying, that moves you back, that ain't on quarterbacks either, right? You know what I'm saying? There's also not on the offensive coordinator, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, he's scheming it up. But if you putting us in first and 20, first and 30, what can you really do right at that point? So I think again, shot ourselves in the foot. And offensively, we haven't seen ourselves play a complete game. But now again, defensively, we've seen the team get better and better and better and better. And I think all of us are now looking and saying, okay, this is a championship level defense that can get us there. Offensively, I still think we have the potential to get there as well, because we just have a few plays that we are leaving on the field. Coaching is not leaving it on the field, right? The players right now have not just made the play that's right in front of them, right? And so when we capitalize on that and we play a complete game, I think it will change our mindset on that. And we got a couple games coming up that I think we'll have a chance to do that in. I think Elvin is saying Bing was hurt after the other game and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach, what was your overall assessment too? You know, obviously being a defensive guy on Alcorn's defense, because I think a lot of people were, you know, even when you look at kind of what we were able to do, you know, throughout the game, you know, a lot of people look at Alcorn and saw, you know, them lose to UAPB and said, okay, well, they kind of almost write Alcorn's defense off, right? But again, this is something that to me is kind of a misnomer as well, right? Because when you think about UAPB, think about the game against Northwestern, right? You know, it wasn't the defense that really didn't play well. I liken it to Prairie View last year, to where our defense just stayed on the field so much because the offense just really couldn't get rolling, couldn't convert third downs. And so, you know, talk a little bit about, you know, from that standpoint of what you thought of Alcorn's defense this past game as well.
Well, you know, they're going to always have some guys. They're going to always have some big guys that can clog stuff up. The other thing, they usually have a pretty good linebacking core that can run, and they keep good DBs down there. They may not go to the NFL, but they do have some good football players. They can play man, they can play zone, and they usually do a pretty good job of tackling as well. So I think, you know, they defense probably feel like they should have won, or they probably feel like, well, we should have gave them a shorter field. But I just think that's the way of Alcorn football, is they're gonna have to find a way to make some more plays to get a shorter field, where they get a sack, force fumble, scoop and score, a pick six, you know, all those things to help their offense out. Because, you know, that's one of the things that I will harp on, man. I don't want to hear nothing about what our offense doing. It's nothing to say we can't score. It's nothing that say we can't give them a short field. It's nothing to say we can't stop them even if they give it to them on the one. Let's go show what we all about. So I just don't think, you know, Alcorn's defense is going to be good pretty much no matter who the head coach is there, because they got great access to good football players and some tough football players on top of that.
Nah, that's what's up. And then, you know, another thing Mr. Bauer said, every big play PV had was called back due to penalty. There was a mention too as well. Now, you answered in the comments, but maybe you can answer because maybe some people aren't seeing it. You know, they asked specifically about the punt block, which also would have been a huge momentum change at that point, right? Because I think at that point we'd have went up, I think 13. No, I think it was 10-3 at that point. It would have been 17-3, right? What's your response to that, right? Mr. Bauer says ref called lunching. He said he was there, he didn't see it. Everyone is saying, scratching their hands. Again, you talk about PV having big plays called back. What was your thoughts on that call? Why was that call?
Look, when I saw it immediately, because if I would have been Alcorn's head coach and they not call that penalty, I probably would have had a stroke or got fined a couple $1,000, because that play is a point of emphasis. And we lost the game to Mississippi Valley on them not calling that 1 year I was the head coach at Prairie View. But you cannot jump over the shield. You can go between them, but you can't jump over them and then come down and block the ball. So it was the correct call. I don't know if they didn't see a flag or somebody that should have been the referee's call or the guy that spots the ball. It should have been one of their calls, but it should have been a flag immediately thrown. That's my opinion from where I was watching the game, and I saw it immediately, because that's, like I say, that's a point of emphasis call for the referees. So a lot of people think you can only call it if one of your teammates help you over or you push up over a guy, but you simply can't. Now, if he would have just went straight up and came down, he could block it, but you can't jump over somebody, then lean down and block the kick. So that's what it was.
I get you.
And actually, I think it was two guys that may have done it because you usually teach them to try to split the wedge, but sometimes you could get away with it, but sometimes, unfortunately, they didn't get it right there. But to me, that was the correct call. The one I didn't understand was they had a very long delay in the game. I don't know if they missed a horse collar or what that was about.
Yeah, it was like 20 minutes, by the way. What they said, what was said in the group was that they thought they was targeting. So they were looking for what they was targeting, I guess, on Cam Peters when he's coming down. But that wasn't it. Somebody said it may be in the spot of the ball, but we were never told, right? And so that's kind of where it leads it to interpretation. The other thing is on the final play, I agree. Not the final play, obviously, exactly, but what could have been the second play, right? And I think I talked with somebody about this too as well. Just said, honestly, you just gotta go for the guy and wrap up, right? Because you may not get the ball, but if you tackle the guy, somebody's on the team probably will get the ball, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so that was just one that I think, he would probably want to have back as well, right? And man, he had I ain't gonna lie, Sterling Roberts had a play in the first quarter where it was him and the running back. He literally jumped over that joker and caused pressure, and I think Kennedy Parker got the sack. But he had a great game, man. That was just one play that you say, man, you wish you'd have back, especially at the moment. Because when he scrambles and kind of as soon as he got away, you kind of knew this joke about the
gonna happen.
Right? You know what I'm saying? You knew it, right? So my heart sank. I remember I was in the parking lot about to walk and get some food, and I just like dropped down like we're about to lose the Alcorn. It's crazy. But but they able to get the job done, right? Big play by Kennedy Parker on the second sack of the game, right? Coming off the edge, right? You know what I'm saying? So really able to do that. And then also, and Coach, leading into, I think, what we're talking about for Northern Lights today, right? I did see a statement here earlier from Elvin when we was talking about the crowd. Said he was at the game, by the way. Nobody was there. Only high school and students there. Don't let these people lie to you. And I see Peasy says, trust me, I know it wasn't that many people there. They not coming to see us go 0-5. Now, before you go to Northern Lights, and Northern Lights today is talking about fans in the stands. Before we get to Northern Lights, I found it because I've had some real good arguments about this whole fan attendance thing. You know what I'm saying? Because when it comes to the great and illustrious Prairie View University, and now, do I think that we can obviously do better? Obviously, I think that, right? You know what I'm saying? But my contention always is that people just be lying. Okay, this is the first thing, right? Because when I look at FAMU this past weekend, they only had less than 13,000 at the game. Now, this is the school that normally averages 19, close to 20,000. What these other 7,000, 8,000 people at? It's like, oh, well, Coach, they don't like Coach, they don't like them. But now, this is the same people that have been telling me that these people will go to games on the moon, but yet the game's on Earth and they ain't making it, okay? You know what I'm saying? They talk about PV, right? And I'm like, this is only a year and a half of losing. They ain't been losing. This is not like a decade, right? This is only a year and a half, but they attendance already coming down. When we look at Jackson beginning this year, only 13,000 against Hampton. This off of winning the championship, right? But Hampton 13. But now they would tell me, right? Well, it's only Southern game that y'all have big numbers. But last time I checked, when y'all play Southern, y'all numbers are way bigger than other games too, right? But so, Coach, I just be having dilemmas because people be talking as if this ain't a reality all around the board. You know what I mean? Now the numbers may be slightly bigger in certain areas, but the skew of these numbers between games, right? Your game against your rival is always more than your game against a random team. So why when you talk about me and Texas Southern, it's like, oh, well, that's the Texas Southern game. Duh. I mean, it's supposed to be more people at that game. That's duh. Right. Okay? But Coach, I'm gonna let you have it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because
fans in the stands.
Northern Lights, we talk about fans in the stands. Take it away.
I'm putting my AD hat on. But look, I'm gonna tell you this, and don't take this the wrong way. I really like AD Golf because I've seen that man at a couple games running, trying to put out fires that wasn't his fire to put out. And I'm not gonna go into great detail, but I got a lot of respect for him for, sometimes he just taking licks that wasn't his lick to take. So I'm going to get to talking about these fans in the stands. And look, I had a great time watching him in the background of the game. Me and Adam watching the game in the backyard laughing at him. But I'm going to get to these Northern Lights. I'm going to just, so when I was the head coach, as they were building or getting ready to build a stadium, I went to a whole lot of different schools. I was doing two things. I was looking at every facility. I went from Incarnate Word all the way to Alabama State, every FCS facility, looking at that. And then I looked at ways to get people in the stands as well. So I'm going to just run through this. So different programs. One, we could start an honorary captain program. It might not bring that big of a lot of attendance, but I think what it'll do, it'll show the Prairie View alum and the former student athletes that you are appreciated. Maybe 3 per game. It don't have to all be football players. You could pick people from different sports, bring them and their families back. I'm gonna take this hat off because it's a little bit smaller, but so just do that. Then sometimes maybe have a team of the week. And I geared this a lot towards when we played the Alabama schools and the Florida schools, because they traditionally don't bring a lot of people when they came to play Prairie View. So I'm just going through that. All right. So team of the week. Then it's October. It's Cancer Awareness Month. We can do now. Sometimes we would come in the office and there would be bike rides and walks going on. So I just may suggest take one of those Saturday mornings where you have a home game in the month of October and have a breast cancer walk. You got a great track facilities. I've seen people do it where they start at night and finish in the morning, and everybody that did the walk may get a ticket to the game or something like that. Or you do it the morning of the game, maybe have people go to the MSC and come, especially if you have like a 1:00 game. But take all those people, let them park out there by the tennis courts or wherever, and then find a way to incorporate them into the game. And then maybe you have one of your players, parent, or somebody on campus that's a breast cancer survivor, and you had them come out as an honorary captain. Invite that whole department, if they work in maintenance or whatever, have all their coworkers come out. That's one thing. I mentioned some of my former players that got awarded this week. So it's a lot of, and Coach Jackson may have this list, but I know Coach Julian Keggins, who played linebacker, they have a program where they have all the Prairie View former football players in a database. A lot of them are high school coaches. So I would suggest, look, let's bring all these high school coaches that played at Prairie View, where they were a start or not, bring them to the game and tell them, bring your team, come on a bus, wear your home jersey so everybody know what color you are, and bring some of your assistant coaches and bring the players, they go sit in the stands. Your seniors can come down on the field before the game, and then you recognize those guys, either they honorary captains or in between the first and second quarter. You mentioned, hey, Jarvis Kelly played at Prairie View from 2000 to 2005. He's now the head coach at Waltrip High School. Julian Keggins is the defense coordinator at Side Ranch High School. All those things, and you have them bring their team, and that makes those guys, that's going to pep them up, as well as the guys that's on their team. Like, damn, coach, we didn't know you had it like that, And then that's going to get stands. You're going to make money off concessions anyway, because them kids not going to come and not eat. So you're going to make money regardless. So the other thing is a neighboring county student ID discount. Some schools have an out-of-state fee waiver for, just say, if you're in Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, get it. What I would suggest is Cy-Fair ISD, Royal ISD, Navasota. If you're within a 30-minute ride of Prairie View, you get in $5 with your student ID. Your parents may get in for $10 or something like that. I went to school at Southern Lab, which is on Southern's campus. I could go to any sporting event at Southern as long as I had my school ID. And that's sort of what got me back into liking Southern. I remember going to watch Bobby Fields and Avery Johnson play when I was in high school. So you couldn't tell me nothing about SWAC basketball. All the legends that Grambling, Texas Southern, Lindsey Hunter, all them guys, Al Ford. I got a chance to see all them play when I was in high school because we got the free admission. So just a $5 student ID if you're in certain parishes. Parents Weekend. I picked this up. LSU did this a couple weeks ago And a young lady that I went to high school with, has a daughter at LSU, lives out here. They went to, it had been a little bit over a month, about 6 weeks since she had seen her daughter. So I thought that was a good idea. Have Parents Weekend for the parents that have kids that's already in school at Prairie View. They came back, have a big tailgate, a big sort of party, band go play, and then they get tickets, and then they sat in the student section maybe with their daughter during the game or something like that. But the bottom line is, then parents miss their kids. You know, Adam is 20 miles away from home, and I know if Prairie View had a Parents Weekend, my wife would be right up there like she ain't seen that boy in 6 months. So I know it'll work. The other thing, throw these out quickly. Maybe a high school battle of the band at the last game. I know they used to have bands. You know, I talk about Roy, but I know Brooks Roy, band director, is a Prairie View alum, and they used to do a lot of parades. You know, bring those bands, a lot of the HISD, bring them back for a quote unquote battle of the band on a Saturday morning before maybe the last home game, and let them sit in the stands. Now, I don't know if you're gonna let them play, but the bottom line is you got half of the visiting side or whatever side you want to call it with people all in the seats. KYF, K to youth football, side fair youth football. Had them kids come with their jerseys on. Kids in their jerseys, free tickets. Parents, $5 or $10. And you know they're going to eat when they get to the game. Again, I always go back to that concession stand. Look, Adam went to a game when he was playing Little League Baseball, and the Astros had you could buy this free concession stand. Not buy it, but you could eat as much as you want for $10 maybe. Man, there was the cheapest hot dogs, the soggiest nachos, the unsaltiest popcorn, and the flattest soda that you could ever have. Man, them kids love just going back and forth, having that quote unquote free food that they paid $10 for. But had a KYF and the side fair, and you know, let them either run out the tunnel behind the team or let them beat the tunnel, and then you send them back up to the stands on the opposite side of the field. The other thing I like, man, and I suggested this, close the MSC and make everybody go tailgate. All they're going to have is hot dog, nacho, chicken wings, but you got to go to the stadium to get your food or whatever. So that's one of the things I would do. And then sometimes I remember when the Gold Member Club was getting started at Prairie View, man, them jokers sat behind a bench of a basketball game. And I had a coach from the other school say, man, my guy couldn't focus with them kids behind us. So I say, maybe take your freshman class and reserve the 50-yard line section on the opposite field and let them sit behind the other team bench. I remember going to Southern Miss when we played them. I was a defense coordinator at Prairie View, and they basically told us, like, look, they have this tradition where they run and greet their student section, and we want to make sure a fight don't get started. That's another thing. The other, we played Texas State. Texas State benches were pretty close to the sideline, but they had their student section was behind our bench, and I think they did it intentionally. You know, they got the girls out there with the shortest of the shorts and the boots and the miniskirts on right behind your bench, going back and forth. Oh, and I got an update. Remember I told y'all about my cousin that was acting a fool when we played Southern in Baton Rouge? I was defense coordinator at Prairie View. That joker live in Cypress, Texas, but I still ain't seen him though. So for everybody that know, he was cutting up, and I told him, hey man, you better leave my players alone. I'm gonna beat you up at my grandmother's house. So he lives in Cypress, but I still hadn't seen him. The other thing, a former student athlete program, your first year out of school, you get a free ticket. Your second year, you get half price. Third year, you pay full price. Another thing I thought about was if you make all conference or all American, you get free tickets, you know, maybe full free tickets for 3 years or something like that. So just an incentive to get guys that play for you coming back. But those, I can't leave this one out. Man, my 290 business corridor. Man, we gotta find a way, and I'm saying we gotta find a way to get in those business, and man, get them to donate. Hey, buy some tickets and give them away, give them to your workers or whatever. And you know, I'm a little bit cantankerous at times. I'll be almost like, look, if you don't want to support us, well, I'm gonna have people boycotting your business because especially if you get money off of us and you don't want to support us, I'll show you how it's gonna go down. But I just think that that 290 business, we don't have to go to Houston all the time. Yeah, Houston good, but all those businesses that's popping up along 290, we got to find a way to get them involved. Invite them to a game, starting off for free, and then sort of work your way into, hey man, you could put a sign up for your business right here. You got, 15, 20,000 here. You got to bring them to the right game, but you got to get some of that 290 business corridor money that's coming our way. So that's about 10 things I hit on. I couldn't find my other notebook, but I had a notebook of all kind of stuff. I'll hit y'all with the facility stuff later though, but that's it in a nutshell.
Hey, listen, Coach, there's a lot of things that we're talking about, right? You know what I'm saying? Getting those fans in the stands. Mr. Mickens, anything you want to add on to what Coach was just sharing?
I like all of those ideas, especially if we could get the community interested by doing some of the things he said. Some what do you call that in bit? Loss leaders, by charging them a little less because they're going to eat something while they're there. It's hot.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to buy some drinks. They're going to eat something. But it would be, I think it's a lot of surrounding people don't know how nice of a venue it is. And so it would be neat to come up there and really see that venue and get a chance to visit it. And I like the youth football thing idea too. That's giving them a chance to beat a tunnel when they come out. And because I know Adam enjoyed that when he used to run out with the football team. So those youth would really enjoy that. And getting to see how big those guys are up close, they'll love that.
Yeah.
I think in the Parents' Day, I think that's really fascinating, and putting the students behind the visiting team. That's what Abilene Christian did when we went and played them.
Okay.
They had a whole student session behind the Prairie View bench, and I mean they were rowdy.
That's what Mr. Bauer was saying too last year. Northwestern State, they did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I like the idea of students with field goals. I think we've done that too at a game before. And then Tony says he liked the ideas, don't think the administration thinks it's worth it. We floated similar ideas, and there seems to be no interest.
Well, I'm not gonna say that you may not think it's worth it, but sometimes, and we as alums, we'll float ideas, but we don't want to put any manpower behind it. So sometimes we have to do some of the legwork, or be willing to do some of the legwork. You can't just say, "Here, Mr. AD, here go these great ideas," and then if he asks you, say, "Hey, what company do you work for? Can you talk to such and such for me? Who is my point of contact?" Then we just want to get out of the way. Like, nah, you got to get some dirt under your fingernails too, now.
Yeah, that's true. Mr. Graves said he took his 7-on-7 team to walk around the stadium there. But hey, what I'm saying, another Grambling guy seeing what it is with PV. Hey, listen, don't let them people come see. Don't let them come see the campus. They're gonna be taken. Okay, they're gonna be taken. Yeah, most people are our section behind the visiting team bench. I really hope it gets there, right? But again, I like the fact that we building. The fact now we at least got a dedicated student section. We've been asking for it for a while.
Yeah,
even though it's up top. Okay, right. But at least we can build right from there. And they've been there, man. The first two games, they've been there. They've been
they be in there.
So I definitely loved it, man. I've loved it so much, and it's been beneficial. We've talked a lot of stuff about about different things we can do, especially in terms of culture, and especially in terms of for different games and stuff like that. I really think freshman thing is big, right? The freshmen come through Panther Camp, giving the freshmen a section, just saying, hey, all freshmen get to sit in this section. And things like this, I think, would really be good too. And so that's it, man. There is something that Coach put out a challenge there, and I like to keep Coach out my nonsense, right? You know what I mean? So we gonna end this stream here, right? You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna come back just for about 15 minutes, right? You know what I'm saying? Because we got something we need to talk about real quick, real briefly. I'm gonna share it here just at the end of this stream so you guys can know exactly what we're doing, right? We talked about it in the PV Nations fan group. And listen, if you're really a fan of PV and you're not in the PV Nations fan group, then are you really a fan of PV? Like, let's just start there, okay? One, right? But Coach talked about getting your hands dirty. And I think a lot of stuff right now, because at the end of the day, we don't have a lot of resources to kind of have necessarily somebody's. When we talk about game day operations, we're not just talking about somebody who has that as something else that they're doing, right? You know what I'm saying? But actually somebody that even may have had history and experience doing that at other places, other school, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we talking about, what we need, right? And so in order to get there, right, and put that, it may take some time, some energy, some funds, but there's a lot of things that we as alum can do and start to control, right? If we come together, right, and like Coach say, start to get our own hands dirty and say, hey, we're going to take this on. That's one thing we're seeking to do right now, even for the Alabama State game, as we look forward and see the rest of the season that's coming up. We say, hey, man, that's a huge game. That could possibly be a game to determine whether we're going to come back to that same stadium in the future and play the SWAC championship game. And so we've been talking even behind the scenes, okay, some of these ideas like Coach is sharing, like, hey, you know what? Hey, university, this is what we're seeking to do. Can you give us these things? Can you give us access to these things? We're actually going to deal with the actual fulfillment of it as alum, right? And as affinity groups around the university, we're going to deal with the fulfillment of it, which at the end of the day, ultimately is just going to put butts in the seat, right, for that game. And similar to some of these ideas Coach Northern's talking about. But again, we have to get our hands dirty. And I know people hate that because I almost think like, oh, I'm doing somebody else's job and all this stuff like this. But at the end of the day, this is my thing, right? If we want the experience on game that we want, some stuff we just got to do, right? If we want the team to have 10,000, 15,000 there, some stuff we just got to do it. I mean, it just is what it is, right? Until we get to that point, we might have to just do it. And so, like I said, we're gonna come back on in a second, and we're gonna talk about this reservation for 3. You know what I'm saying? Again, just for 15 minutes, right? Y'all indulge me. I'm gonna get Coach Northern out here because I don't like him in my mess.
Yeah, we can't do Coach like that. He can't be associated.
I will say this before we go, right? We've talked about, we got a new thing that we just started with the PV Nation fans group called the Run It Up Challenge. All right, you know what I'm saying? We're challenging every alum, fan, and supporter to donate the points of every win to the Football Excellence Fund. And that QR code is right there on the screen. And listen, you ain't even got it. Listen, it's a PV fan, alum, or supporter. So listen, if you support the university, maybe you don't support them against your team like Mr. Graves, right? You know what I'm saying? But you say, hey, man, I appreciate what Prairie View is doing in the Houston area. I brought my 7-on-7 team there, and I just want the school to continue to do what it's doing, the athletic program to continue moving forward. You can even be a supporter and put that $13 up, right? Now, listen, y'all should be happy when you scored that many points for this. So we started out with a low number. You feel? We started out with 13, right? You know what I'm saying? But listen, if you say, hey, I wanna be a part of this Run It Up challenge. Every game that we win, we're gonna donate the amount of points we score. We're gonna donate that in dollars to the Football Excellence Fund because an elite program demands elite support, right? You know what I'm saying? And so with that said, man, as we close it out, man, Coach Kerry, y'all got any words, any last words as we close it out today?
Now, looking forward to possibly enjoying this off week and getting ready for a couple of homecomings back to back. You know, going to Baton Rouge. Yeah. Well, look, if somebody want to trade a homecoming, good time with me, let me know because me and my wife homecoming spot is not far from the stadium at Southern. It's right by the gym where the team changed clothes, and we were not lucky enough to get a tailgating spot at Prairie View. So if you're a Prairie View alum or former football player and you want to come have a beverage and some meat and a little bit of food in Baton Rouge, if you got my number, touch base with me. I'll trade your weekends because I know Miss Wanda already started cooking her meat, the Panther backers. But if somebody want to touch base with me in Baton Rouge, let's look, Chris Ford, I know QK and a couple other guys have my number, but it hadn't changed. If you ever had it, let's work something out. I'll trade with
you. Yeah. It's funny when people talk about a team playing bad football and they ain't winning no game. It's crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, with that said, man, listen, again, we're gonna close it out. Don't go nowhere. We're coming right back here for 15 minutes. Y'all indulge me, right? Because we're gonna talk about the Run It Up challenge, how we got here. Elvin put it in the comments. But again, I like to keep Coach Northern away from the foolishness. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So with that said, man, we're gonna holler at y'all.